Tracy Thorne, for the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Data Analysis for Runaway and Homeless Youth Services at the New York City Department of Youth and Community Development. So go ahead.
So we're still good with the PowerPoint, right? We're still good with the PowerPoint. Okay. And so I have also for folks whose backs are to the PowerPoint, here's the presentation, which I neglected to put my name or my department on, so there's always room for improvement. You know what? I have a mic up here, so if anyone wants, I'll give you. Great.
So right now I would really love it if Jeanette would go ahead and introduce herself. And also our question today was, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Oh, okay. So Jeanette Rodriguez. I've been on the board now, I was looking at it this morning, 10 years. Everybody here knows me from Nike, but I just made a transition Friday. Yes. So I've joined FIFA to lead World Cup 2026. Here in New York City, so New York, New Jersey. So I am up to my eyeballs now in the deep dive, but I'm really excited about what it will mean for this city, and the light bulbs are already going off about how we can partner with DYCD. I've already started tapping Daryl. I'm like, yes, I have. The moment I knew I was going to make the transition, I was like, confidentially, this is what I'm doing. Thank you. What would I tell my 18-year-old self? Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Who you are at 18 will not be who you will be in your 40s. Trust the process, because it always works out. And I say that because I have a soon-to-be 17-year-old, and we're going through the college process right now. And I literally just had a conversation with her college counselor. And I saw the look in her eyes of how, like, quickly you can become demoralized and defeated. And I said to her just last week, who you are today is not who you will be. So trust the process, and it's not linear. It is not linear. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Tracy?
Yeah, I'm so glad you're going to be part of FIFA. I'm on a committee for the anti-trafficking efforts that was required by the city. Every city who applied had to put in a really robust proposal about how they're going to prevent trafficking, human and work. So
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
mind-blowing. So learning
Yeah.
all about how it's all going to be interconnected. So
yes.
we will all be working really closely.
Yes, that's exciting. Okay, so Runaway and Homeless Youth Services, one of the unsung heroes of DYCD. So I'm going to take you through all of our services, and then if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them, and if I can't, I'll get back to you. And I'll also reply to the email with my contact information, so since I neglected to put it on this PowerPoint. So for street outreach, we have 2 vans that travel throughout the 5 boroughs, meeting young people where they're at and giving out harm reduction kits, safe sex kits, hoodies, backpacks, sleeping bags, and offering resources for coming into shelter. And so they also they'll also bring young people to an appropriate place to rest or into shelter if required. So those 2 vans go out every night, except for Sunday. And the hours are 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. And they're always looking for new spots where young people are popping up, and so these are some of the services they offer. And the provider is Safe Horizon Streetworks program. Any questions about the street outreach? We probably serve, let's see, about 9,000 people, more than 9,000 people a year, 9,000 not unduplicated, like 9,000 contacts.
Do we have any sense of where they come from, or are they mostly city residents?
Yeah, it's a good idea. We don't on the outreach side,
Mhm.
but once people are doing intake, we do have a sense of where they're coming from. So people come from all over the country, and also we were talking about before, from other countries.
Mhm.
But a lot of people are traveling from other states for services with LGBTQ affirming sites.
Mhm.
A lot of people come from the 5 boroughs too. So we also have drop-in centers. We have 5 24-hour drop-in centers. I don't know if you can see my little map from DYCD, Discover DYCD. You put in, yeah, and they're also there. Thanks, Sarah. So we have it. So look, like I had to make a very specific map. All the way on the left is Staten Island. We have a Bronx site, 2 sites in Queens, 1 in Far Rockaway, Brooklyn in East New York, Brownsville, and Harlem in Midtown. So those young people can come in at any point to rest, to get a shower, to get food. They also are connected to case management, educational support. We have a lot of connections with the New York City schools. And in addition, we have some newish programs that started a couple years ago, financial coaching and employment. They're the ones who are helping with summer youth employment, emerging leaders programs, which are specific to special populations, and you don't have to have the lottery. Mental health hubs, and housing navigators. And so we've been really fortunate for the past few years to have access to Section 8 vouchers and city FEPs. And all of that, Section 8 is definitely in jeopardy. And so we're watching that really closely. So our residential programs, when you think about our residential programs, don't think about the huge DHS shelters with like hundreds of people. These are small home-like environments, 20 beds. They are like apartment-style shelters for the most part. We do have a really large program, Covenant House. I'm sure you all have heard of Covenant House on 41st Street. Beautiful location. They just renovated it. Definitely not like a DHS location. The first kind of service for people who come in are for the crisis services programs, and they are, you can stay at the sites for 120 days or until you you're about to turn 21. The other population for crisis services programs are the HYA beds or homeless young adult beds, and they are for youth or actually young adults who are 21 to 24. And like Andrew mentioned, we have additional beds coming soon. Now we don't know at this point whether we're going to get crisis services programs or the transitional independent living support services programs, but the providers we're working with the providers to get those beds online as soon as possible. So the next group of residential programs are transitional independent living support services, and people can stay there for up to 24 months or until they're over the 2 age groups, almost 21 or almost 25. And until is where people can finally get their educational achievement, get a housing voucher. They can find employment, and so this enables young people to stabilize, achieve their goals, and move hopefully into a situation that is not homeless or unstable. And I think, so I handed out this, we call it a virtual prom card. It's on our website. It's updated very frequently, so go to our website and check it out. The comms team does a great job updating it. We have, so at any point, if anyone needs services, they can go to a drop-in center at any point. They can call a crisis services program to be referred to a bed. And yeah, so that is that is the presentation. Does anyone have any questions or answers? Yes.
Under current circumstances, does the department feel like they're adequately serving the youth and the need?
I think that while young people are in our programs, they're adequately served. Once they reach those age limits, there's not a lot of resources for new New Yorkers who are asylum seekers or seeking SITch. So overall, I would say that they're, and in this political climate, I'm not really sure how far we'll be able to go, but more resources are available for folks who do not have status.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so in terms of current service to that age group,
Yes, we have.
enough beds, etc.
I mean, I think the more beds we have, the more people we will serve. I don't think we have hit that sweet spot at this moment, which is why we're getting 100 more of the HYA beds. The HYA beds are full all the time, like almost 100% utilization rate, and so that's a population who still needs some extensive care and support. And a lot of youth who we serve do not feel comfortable going to DHS. And this is no shade on DHS, they know about this already, but like they would more likely be street homeless without these 100 beds.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a really good opportunity for youth to find, their stride and move forward with their lives. Yeah. Anybody? Yes, hi, Ray.
Hi. So I just want to applaud you on all this great work. I've seen this palm card a couple of times on the internet and have used it.
Oh, good.
And so we had, some issues maybe 6 months ago, where every bed in the city was just full.
Yes.
You could not get a young person in, and so we had, some young folks who had found their way informally to stay with friends and couch surf for a while, but there was one particular young person who was LGBTQ and was traumatized from his past and did not want to go into a men's shelter and was just acting up in the shelter system. And so we ended up finding some funding for him to get him at Airbnb for like 2 months,
Wow.
which was really costly.
Yeah.
And we would not be able to do that, from one person at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wondered, what are your suggestions, around when capacity is full, right? Where do we look to plug young people in if we need to?
Yeah.
And if there's a backup plan that the city follows in those situations.
Yeah, so DHS can expand and contract with need.
Okay.
DYCD doesn't have that option, but I would say if someone is going to age out or need somewhere to stay, to start early, to find a placement like a month or two, and start talking to some of the providers to see if they could get on. We don't actually call it a wait list, but if we did, it would be called a wait list. There will be some options, and people are paying attention to. They're not a wait list, but it has been really hard for males, especially.
Yeah.
We've had 0 vacancies for male identifying folks, so that's been really difficult. The other thing that's interesting is that there's a DHS young adult program for females, but not for males at the time.
Yeah.
So that's also challenging.
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
to.
But there's also, both ACS and DYCD have been fortunate with getting additional housing vouchers, and so there's also those resources available to keep people who can get out into apartments, so that there's a little more space for people who are coming in.
Yeah.
So we're emphasizing that,
Yeah.
go to permanent housing so we can have a little
Yeah.
more flexibility.
And I do want to say that story ended up that way.
Oh, good.
So he did move out of his Airbnb with a voucher
Nice.
into an apartment, and he's on TikTok posting how he cooks crab legs.
His best life.
Right.
Good for him. That's awesome. That's a great story. Any other questions?
Anyone else? Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Tracy. That was great.
Thank
Good work for the homeless.
Yes.
So next up, we would like to have our minutes approved. So the minutes have been sent out from our last December 11th meeting. I hope everyone had a chance to look at it. Do I have a motion for adopting the minutes? Okay, great. And a second?
Second.
Peter, thank you. All right, minutes adopted from December. Now I would like to introduce Nuraz Salam from Workforce Programs, who will be giving us an overview of our Workforce Youth programs, as well as all the exciting updates around SYEP.
Hi, good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you, Andrew and Sarah, for inviting me to give update on Workforce. My name is Nur Salam. I'm the Senior Director of In-School Youth Programming at DYCD. Under my purview is Summer Youth Employment Program. I know all of you know about SYP, the largest youth employment program in the country. We are also running other programming, including Learn and Earn, which is a federally funded program. On the SYP side, there have been so many interesting and good updates that I can share with you all today. How many of you know that SYP application was released in January this year? Oh, amazing. This is the first year in program history we are the earliest launch. Last year we launched it in January. We thought like that was going to be the earliest, but we went beyond this year because we always hear from our providers, right, to see what they actually need in terms of making sure our young people are ready to enter workforce, because it's not about just connecting them with job, right? It's also making sure that they have work readiness skills so they can thrive in the jobs that we give them in the summer. So the applications was launched on January 21st, right after the MLK Day, and this year we have seen huge increase in terms of applications. Last year we thought we had 180,000, 83,000 applications. That was the most we are going to receive. This year we went beyond that number. And it speaks volume in terms of the work that our community-based organizations are doing on the ground. Think about in the age of TikTok, social media, right? Young people are still coming to DYCD's workforce programming to start their work journey. So that means a lot for us, right? And when I first started talking about making sure that young people are ready before they start their summer journey, last few years, especially last 3 years, DYCD has standardized work readiness training. That means we're not just connecting young people with work opportunities, we are also making sure that any young people that come to our door, they know how to write a resume, because no one can get a job right now without a resume. So we want to make sure, even if you're 14 or 24, you have a polished resume that you can show to employer. We also know resume is not the only thing that will get you a job, right? We want to make sure that our young people know how to do interview, right? As part of that, our providers work with them when it comes to the mock interview. And past 5 years, we have been partnering with Hats and Ladders, which is a digital work readiness training platform that gives young people self-directed experience in terms of knowing how to write resumes, how to write cover letter, how to navigate professional environment. And one thing our mayor and our commissioner is really big into mental health and wellness. So we have introduced wellness curriculum into our SYP programming, so our young people know how to manage stress at work. One thing we always see in the summer, right, when the summer employment starts, sometimes there are incidences, and those incidences start because sometimes young people don't know how to manage their anger, right, or they don't know how to communicate with their supervisor. Those are the things we covered during the orientation component. I know another thing, our both mayor and our commissioner is really big into financial literacy. There is actually a New York City law that requires young people to young people who come into DYCD's programming to receive mandatory financial literacy training. Last year was the first year we required all of our young people in SYP programming to receive at least 2 hours of financial literacy training. As a matter of fact, actually, I would like you guys to take a guess. Do you know how many minutes of, just an estimate, how many minutes, like from the 100,000 young people that we serve, how many minutes were spent on financial literacy? Any guess? 45
No.
minutes? I will give you the total number. Over 8 million minutes young people spend on financial literacy. That's huge. And we're talking about 14 to 24 years old. Another thing I want to highlight is that young people, so when it comes to financial literacy, what we're seeing on our SYP ad, 70% of the young people sign up for direct deposit to receive their SYP check.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew and Sarah, I don't think we have that number for city employees. So these are incredible foundational skills that we're building for our young peoples. Because right now, as you know, with inflation, everything is super expensive, and it's very important that young people know how to manage their money. Because once they enter college, those tuition fee is ridiculously high right now. So these are some of the things we are covering during the work readiness training before the young people start their journey on July 1st. And that brings up my next point. Although SYP online application closed on March 14th, we are still accepting some applications for our special initiative population, as Tracy mentioned in our presentation, the Emerging Leader Program, right? Young people who have faced barriers to employment, we have providers on the ground who are going to work with them to get their applications. In terms of those of you who are interested in taking on interns this summer, we are still accepting worksite applications that have not been closed. If you are interested in learning how to be a worksite, please do reach out to us. We can definitely connect you with our employers engagement team. As a matter of fact, last year we had over 18,000 businesses throughout New York City that have taken SYP participants. And when I say, there are some big names, right, that have either hosted participants or took our young people to an office store, but it was mom and pop shop, those small businesses that actually worked with our providers to making sure that they're giving the young people's experience. And what benefits when it comes to the employers, DYCD pays for those experiences. And this year, the minimum wage has gone up, so young people are going to be making $16.50. I think about myself too. Like when I was in high school and college, I feel like I was being taken advantage of because none of my internships were paid.
Yeah.
And I wish I had known about some of the SYP programming, right? Because young people are getting paid. There is no unpaid internships in our programming. So that's on the SYP side. There are other things that we're doing, interesting and innovative things during the school year. Before I get to that, I wanted to see if you guys have any questions for me.
I'm really, really, really glad to hear some of our recommendations that we made to the commissioner kind of rolled out, including earlier rolling out of the applications. One thing we also included in the recommendation was taking this opportunity to get IDs, legal IDs, because it's so important for future employment for many things, and including opening up a bank account, that you have to have a legal ID. So if you could talk a little bit about either plans or why it might be prohibitive in terms of rolling that out, that would be great.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for advocating for all the great changes that are happening on the DYCD side. Because of the early release, young people are prepared, and also they know now, before the summer start, where they're going to be working. And those of you who've been working on the SYP side, it was not the case before, right? In the first and second week of July, we'd be struggling to find all this placement. That's no longer the case. Everybody knows where they're going to be before July 1st. in terms of the ID requirement, that's another really great point you brought up, right? Our providers are actually working with the young peoples because, for 14 to 24, we all are asking young peoples to have a photo ID. So we want to make sure that young peoples, either there is this municipal ID card, right, that young peoples can young people can have, and also have access to different resources. It gives you access to different museums that they can go to, right? So that's something our providers work with our young people during the enrollment process, because SYP has, since it's a work program, we require young people to submit different documents. So as part of that, our providers are right now, as a matter of fact, because for some programming, the enrollment has already started. We are already over 20,000 young people enrolled for the program. So that means those 20,000 young people have already submitted their photo ID, submitted their social security, submitted their proof of address. And our providers work with them throughout the whole process to make sure that they fulfill all those requirements. But in terms of getting those municipal ID, one of the issue is sometimes they don't get the appointments, right? Those appointments are not available as often as we would like. So hopefully that changes in future in terms of having much more flexibility and making sure that we're making it much more easier, especially for 14, 15, 16 years old to have that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I also submitted a recommendation in terms of obtaining reasonable accommodations for youth with disabilities. So we want to ensure that they're equally successful as their counterparts with other disabilities. Can you elaborate on that point?
Absolutely, another great point. So in terms of young people with disabilities, we work with D75, right, with New York City Public Schools. We have set aside slots for youth with disabilities. And we know, and on the DYCD side, sometimes our providers are not equipped with all the resources that young people need who have disabilities. That's why we partner with DOE and make sure that they're making all the resources they have on their end available for young people to complete their summer youth employment program. There is over, I don't have the exact number, but it's over 1,000 slots that we set aside for youth with disabilities. Yeah.
So just congratulations on opening the application early and the enrollment number. I wonder if you could say a couple of words about the vocational training opportunities that are plugged into the SYP. So sometimes some young folks are allowed to go to CUNY and seek professional certification during the summer.
Okay, that's another great point, because in DYCD's workforce program, not only SYP, there are other programmings that we run and that has vocational programming, right? For example, Advance and Earn, which gives you credentialing in 6 different industry sectors. We also have Train and Earn, which is federally funded. It works with young people who are not in school, who are not working, and gives young people's credentialing in terms of a priority sector, so that way they can be prepared to enter workforce. In terms of school year, and that was I was going to talk to you guys about what we do from September until the summer youth employment program start. We have a work, learn, and grow program, right, which is a continuation of SYP programming for some young people that are in career ready SYP, where we work with young people from New York City Public Schools and some special initiative participants. So during the work, learn, and grow, and that's the most innovative thing when it comes to workforce programming, we included academic component. There was no academic component in workforce programming before, right? So as a matter of fact, we have over 7,000 young people that take CUNY courses from October until December. And I think I have my number right now because we got that number from CUNY. We have 5,000 young people that received college credits through our Work and Grow program. This is incredible number. And one thing, sometimes New York City Public Schools get surprised, right? Like, how do we have so many young people? Because our retention rate is very high. And as you know, there are reports coming out in terms of New York City Public Schools, the attendance, there are some struggles, right? But our young people, what we're seeing on our end, since we're bringing providers to the fold, right? It's not a relationship between school and the young peoples anymore. There is another entity involved, right? So the providers is following up with those young peoples, making sure that they're showing up in the CUNY classes. They're handing in their homework. And in last 4 years, we have over 20,000 young people that have successfully passed our CUNY course. And there is a New York State Controller's findings, actually, the research, right, that shows young people who take College Now courses, they're more likely to go into college. They're also more likely to stay in college after the first semester. So that's one of the really great partnerships that we have been doing with New York City Public Schools and also involving CUNY. But to address your questions in terms of the vocational training, that's what we are doing for in-school youth populations, right? But we understand there are young people that are not in school. So for their academic component is taking different courses in terms of graphic design, right? We have young people that are not in school, not working. They have taken graphic design course last year. I believe the number was over 50 young people that successfully passed that course. We also have young people that have taken pharmacy tech courses that we offer for the very first time for those young people. And for the very first year, we have 50 young people that actually were part of those 2 courses. Because whenever we're designing our programs, we want to make sure that it fits everyone's needs. Because not all, we understand all of our young people is coming from different backgrounds, so we want to make sure that we are creating programs that meets all of their needs and demands.
Thank you.
So one of our, one of our recommendations was to separate out the groups that are in school, which is up to 18, and then those who were out of school or out of,
Wow.
So is there a separation, because they were kind of lumped together in the training programs? Are there, and the board kind of felt that their needs were different and their personal trajectories were different, being in school at before graduation and then.
Absolutely, that was another great suggestion, and we have actually made some changes in terms of even how DYCD operates, right? Like when I introduced myself, I said I'm the Senior Director of In-School Youth Programming. That means I am working with young people that are in school. I have a colleague who focuses on out of school, out of work youth, right? In terms of our programming, there is SYP, but we have the Train and Earn program, which focuses on young people that are out of school, out of work. Same with Advance and Earn, which gives young people the credential, focuses on the same group of young people too. Because we understand not all one size fits all. We want to make sure that we're catering to everybody's needs. So another great suggestion, and DYCD is making progress on that.
Any other questions?
Not a question, more of a statement. The work that you guys are doing with people with disability, I think is really great. I just want to offer up, we have an office at the Mayor's Office, Center for Workplace Accessibility and Inclusion. Martha Jackson, you might know her from her work with the Mayor's Office of People with Disability. They would love to partner and do more work with you all, so that would be a contact I'll share with you after the meeting.
Absolutely, thank you for the suggestion, and let's connect after the meeting, all right? Thank you.
Let's have one more.
Yeah.
Sorry. But when some of the young folks who complete SYP are actually looking for employment, what do you recommend we do to connect them to jobs? We leverage Workforce One, HRA, Access VR, and even some of the employment programs in the community that are funded, but what do you recommend that we do with SYP interns who are looking to transition straight into the workforce?
So, every year after, after the SYP ends, we do survey, right? Post-program survey. We want to know how many of the young people that have successfully completed their job, right? How many of them received offer to continue the employment, right? Or received offer to come back the following summer. One thing, I was very surprised to see some of those numbers because I used to work with Ladders for Leaders program, which provides professional paid internships to young people who are high achieving, right? Mm-hmm. We used to see a really good number on the latter side, right? 44% of the young people used to get an offer to continue. But we're seeing it on the SYP side too, because we have over 30% of the young people that get offered to continue employment, and it speaks volume in terms of some of the industry sectors, right? Although I know right now people are struggling to find jobs, but if you specifically focus on some of the industry sectors, there is a lot of needs for skilled employees. And one thing we are doing on SYP side, I talked about the orientation component where we're teaching young people's work readiness training, but we're also taking it to the next steps, right? We're looking at what are some of the industry sectors that are looking for skilled worker, right? Within SYP, there is a pro skill track which gives young people 25 hours of training. If you're interested in information technology, we're teaching young people in terms of basic coding, just getting started, right? Just to spark that interest in them. We also have 25 hours of training available in business and professional services. We know that's another field that is looking to hire a lot of young people, right? Then graphic design too. So these are the things we are providing because right now it's very competitive job market, but only way for you to stand yourself apart from other folks is to make sure that you have those specific skill set. And on the DYCD side, we're asking in the young people right now in the application that would you be interested if there is a opportunities comes in future. So that means we are strengthening the data that we are collecting. So whenever there is different opportunities comes, we can let those young people know that these employers is hiring and you express interest.
Okay.
So it's a small thing, but it sometimes goes a long way.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Quick question, do you collaborate with the City University in New York workforce development programs?
So not necessarily with the workforce program, but we work with CUNY in terms of providing College Now courses. So right now we are working with 5 different CUNY campuses when it comes to College Now courses. But sometimes, when there is an opportunity in terms of workforce development and making sure that they're being a thought partner, we have those conversations too.
I see a good number of students at our campus, also community college. They do a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Those students are, stars.
Absolutely.
Really good.
And majority of our young people, SYP and Ladders for Leaders, they come from New York City Public Schools and CUNY. These are the young people that get benefited from our program. And they produce some of the brightest people. Like if you really look at successful alums that come out of CUNY.
All right, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, that was scary. All right, so now I would like to announce Ubube, who is our youth representative on our board. I know you probably had some issues on the subway, but will you introduce yourself and tell us one thing you would tell your younger self at 18, all right? Before you get started, Ubube will be introducing the youth agenda from 2024 for us to consider for subcommittees this year.
Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you for that, Jackie. My name is Ubube Wetman, and I'm...
Actually, if you hold it down a little.
It's better? Okay, sounds good. Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Ubube Wetman. I'm the Youth Engagement Officer here at DYCD. Just to answer the prompt, something I would tell my younger self, you said before 18?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say you can do it all. If you put your mind to it, you can do it, so just keep doing it. I think that's what I would say. So yeah, in my role as the Youth Engagement Officer, I've been privileged to do this for over the past year, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to represent young people in front of the youth board and with the youth board and provide a voice for young people across New York City. When I'm not in that role as the Youth Engagement Officer, which is never, I'm always in a role, I serve as the Director of Media and Communications and Marketing with the NYC Youth Agenda. I'm one of the founding members of the NYC Youth Agenda. This is our 5th year, our year of accountability and visibility, as we like to say. But the Youth Agenda the NYC Youth Agenda is a coalition of nonprofit organizations that help, using data, that help provide recommendations to policymakers to help, to help make policies in order to benefit young people in society. Some of those recommendations have been along areas of economic mobility, housing security, mental health, educational equity, and environmental justice. Over the past 2 years, that has been the area that we've been working on, and since the year we started, we have been working on these areas in order to provide recommendations. Some of the nonprofit organizations that we work with include Intergenerational Change Initiative, ICI, Citizens Committee for Children, ONS, Office of Neighborhood Safety, which is actually a DYCD program, and organizations just like that. I know I'm throwing a lot of acronyms. I promise we are doing serious work. So some of these organizations help out. ISSE provides a survey that goes out every year, the YEA census. It's called the Youth Ask Youth Census. And over the past few years, we've got, every time we put it out, we always get over 1,000 responses from young people in order to help shape some of the data that we use to then work on these recommendations and provide to policymakers. This year, moving on to this year, there's something major going on in New York City this year. If someone wants to help me. Kwesi, what is going on this year in New York City?
There are primaries coming.
Yes, thank you. There are primary elections coming up. So then that helped us shape the next wave of the youth agenda. Well, thank you for that. Well, we helped shape the next wave of the youth agenda where we based it on a 4-year cycle, where at the beginning of every 4 year, we push out our recommendations that we help. We stay on course to push throughout the 4 years and then provide a recommendation at the end of the year. I appreciate Noor mentioning things about SYP. That has been one of our recommendation areas that we are pushing with economic mobility. When we started 5 years ago, I always say this all the time, like SYP was just a little above having about 70,000 young people, but then year after year we've seen that go up from 70 to 83, from 83 to 95, and then last summer we're able to break the 100,000 mark. And then hopefully, we're still waiting for numbers this year, but hopefully as the applications keep going up, so are the hiring positions. And providing young people an opportunity to work and gain gainful employment opportunities and vocational training in order to be active in society and also practice in civic engagement opportunities, which is something that we pushed in the youth board, in my role at the youth board coming from last year to this year, expanding civic engagement opportunities for young people. When it comes to like mental health, we were pushing that last year, and over the time, mental health has been an issue area that has been with the youth agenda since the very beginning. So right coming from COVID, mental health has been an area where young people always want to see change, always want to move forward. Last year, we were able to partner with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to create a youth mental health committee, which I'm proud to also be part of and be a fellow to help find that. And also be with that committee to provide mental health recommendations for the DOHMH in order to pass for young people in society and help mental health. Like I said, economic mobility, civic engagement, economic mobility, SYP has been going up. This has been created for the mental health committee, but also just those kind of opportunities existing for young people through the help of the NYC Youth Agenda, pushing those things. This year we're partnering up with the Youth in Focus committee. They have a youth mayoral forum coming up that we are also helping to promote. We have an Instagram. If you ever have Instagram, we have the NYC Youth Agenda. So feel free to share that with your young people. It's my job to promote the youth agenda. So,
do you want to show the PDF?
I don't know if we have the link, but yeah, I'm sure.
Do we have
But
it?
it's just a.
Do we set it up? The link that you sent?
I mean, it's okay. I could always share it. I could always share it after.
Okay.
Yeah, Tracy was logged in. Are we logged in under your?
No, but I'll facilitate.
No worries. Thank you so
Let you
much.
speak.
So those are just some of the things that we are working on when it comes to like educational equity, promoting educational equity in schools to making sure that young people have access to resources across the board, and environmental justice. We are seeing we see what's happening with the society, with the states in New York City, and so promoting ideas that promote growing trees and green jobs for young people in New York City with environmental justice related issues is something that's also very important to us. But yeah, I think that's the old one. I can put up. Yeah. But any questions? If you want to think about questions while Tracy and I figure
So
this
one
out.
thing I would like us to consider the board in terms of the new subcommittees for this year. Last year we looked at workforce development, and also how to leverage support for our service providers. And this year, we were thinking, the executive committee were thinking that this might be a good place for us to consider, is what the youth have come up with in their agenda for 2024, and how we can do a little committee work around it. So can you introduce some of the key points from the agenda that was rolled out?
Yeah, I think something that we pushed that I remember on the top of my mind from our recommendation as the youth board is when we tried to, encourage that maybe, like this was an idea that we were trying to push, but maybe separating the ages of SYP and maybe from 16 to 18 and then 19 to 24 to separate the older youth from more younger youth that might still be in school and just trying to gain work experience, from people that might transition to actual full employment opportunities after they have the SYP experience. So that was a great recommendation I thought that we had, and pushing that, that's the one that's really sticking out to me, because I really thought, I was like, this is brilliant, and I think it will really help out young people in society if we are able to pull this off and to do this. It will be more commitment to joining SYP, and also knowing that there's a path for them right after SYP as well.
So can you go through their agenda and what they were interested in?
Yeah, so as I was saying about the YEA census, the youth asking, so everything that we have recommendation-wise is what we brainstorm after, but all these are founded from data from young people. If you talk about economic mobility, as you can see, our researchers says that 55% of youth think that summer jobs would help them feel more financially secure. 75% of YEA respondents, which is the youth asking census, they feel like sometimes they worry about housing, their household's ability to pay bills. That's a high number.
Yeah.
75% of young people worrying about funds. I remember a few years ago when I mentioned that, Comptroller Brad Lander stood up and was like, this is not good enough, we gotta do better. And he's running for mayor now, so all the best. 46% of young people report that they're always frequently worried about being able to afford food. 27% of youth who took the YEA applied for SYP but were not accepted. Again, we see that the numbers of applications keep going up, so hopefully that number keeps reducing over time. And something that we did for the youth agenda last year that was particularly interesting was we included lived experiences. So all these quotes are testimonies from young people who wanted to share their story. I'll read this one quickly for economic. It said, growing up, if you're lucky enough to even have a nutrition class, you're told the importance of having a well-balanced diet and eating a certain amount each day. However, it's difficult to put into perspective when you cannot afford 2 or 3 meals a day. And if it's possible to only afford options do not make up for the balanced diet. BLTs, honey buns, Arizonas, and other quick foods can only do so much for you. So while we are pushing healthy alternatives, we also need to promote healthy financial alternatives for young people as well. Let me share something about mental health. Mental health, 51% of young people reported feeling anxious and nervous. 49% of young people reported feeling stressed. These are young people that we're talking about, ages 14 to 24, 16 to 24, still young people even at that age, and these are high numbers. 49% feeling stressed. What are you stressed about that? But this is what we see in mental health, and this is what young people are reporting. And this is not my data or Quase's data who works with us. These are from young people throughout New York City. A lived experience from mental health. I find out a lot of adolescents, including my close friends and people around me, have or currently are struggling with their mental health. And the majority of them are unable to receive the help that they need because of factors such as stigma, inaccessibility, and unaffordability. That's a lot for a young person to deal with. One thing I like about our work with the NYC Youth Agenda, and I always share this as well, is that we never just bring problems. we never just bring problems to policymakers. If you ask us, what could we do? I'm like, hey, we got recommendations. Our recommendations, okay. Prioritize accessible and culturally sustaining support services for transitioning youth and young adults. That's a great recommendation. If you also ask us, okay, how do we get this money? We also tell you how to get this money. Last year, Jackie was there at the Youth Agenda event. We called it a policy party because we wanted to attract policymakers to come join us. They came. But one thing that we said is like, marijuana became legal in New York City. When you look at the population, the data of the amount of young people that are actually purchasing from the shops that are coming out everywhere, like, so if you put a greater tax on some of these marijuana industries, like, you'll be able to use some of those money to fund accessible transportation, after school activities for young people. So we not only give you the recommendations, we tell you how exactly you could get the money as well. So that's kind of the work that we do with the NYC Youth Agenda.
So can you go over the other ones really quickly?
Yeah, for sure. I know I just jumped over there, but when we come to, yeah, no worries. Some of our recommendations for educational equity include investing in initiatives and legislation aimed at growing an equitable, diversifying, which means equitably diversifying the NYC Public Schools teaching and leadership body. Something that we did, especially when it came to, I'll go to housing security, because we combined housing security and economic mobility this year. We've been seeing a lot of push with the economic mobility aspect of the Youth Agenda as we're sharing with as the growth of SYP. So we were like, okay, we could push more for housing. And an idea that we came up with was actually like looking through the lenses of senior benefits and also mirroring those benefits for young people. So the same way you have the senior benefits for housing and transportation, I feel young people deserve that same thing, 16 to 24. Give them the opportunity to get from point A to point B without paying almost a $3 MetroCard fare to go for a job interview or to go for this or that. So mirroring some of those benefits when it comes to affordable housing and housing units. Senior citizens across New York City have affordable housing units with AARP and some of the other organizations that are out there promoting that, but having those kind of benefits for young people as well is going to be beneficial moving forward. A recommendation that we have is to address the backlog maintenance and unlivable conditions in both public housing, this is NYCHA, and aging, poorly maintained, rent stabilized NYC buildings. So even when we bring, that's like a chunk of our recommendations, but then we break it down into implementing transparent systems to ensure that allocated funds are utilized for repairs, allocate city funds to repair existing vacant public housing and aging buildings. And so these are just many, many recommendations that we have for every single issue area that we mentioned. Again, I'm going to repeat it: economic mobility, housing security, educational equity. We have mental health, and finally we have environmental justice. So hopefully, as we are pushing this year with our year of accountability and visibility, we're able to hold mayoral candidates moving forward. We're able to hold them accountable while also promoting visibility for our work as the NYC Youth Agenda.
That's great, thank you. Can you speak a little bit about, one thing that jumped out to me when I was at the conference, at the
Policy party.
Yeah, policy party, was that under education, some of the young people were mentioning that sex education has been now left out of their access to as part of their education. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because it was included in the report.
Yeah, I think that was like, when we were speaking about that, I think that was like a big one, promoting sex education in school, and that also tied into one of the recommendations from the mental health committee when they started talking about early parenthood of mothers under 18 in some cases and less than, younger than 20 years old, and trying to help them benefit. But having sex education in school, I think it comes to this point of our recommendation when we say we are investing in initiatives and legislation aimed at growing and equitable, diversifying the NYC public school teachers and leadership today, our leadership body, but also promoting the idea of sex education in school and after school programs, and providing us not just pushing it out there, sex education, making sure that it's safe for young people, making sure that it's open for young people to want to go learn about sex education, making sure it's not like a stigma that's hanging around certain societies and certain diverse neighborhoods and under-resourced neighborhoods, but also like providing resources to make them interesting for young people to want to go in them. Something that we're trying to push now is the idea of a Joy Center in New York City for especially, again, that's tying up with the mental health community, but promoting Joy Centers where young people could go and access resources. So hopefully if we're able to do that, sex education is going to be one of them that goes to educate young people as well.
And you do see that as a possibility for after school?
Yes, oh, for sure. Like, apart from even sex education, but also touching on things of economic mobility with financial literacy and training. All those happen in like after school. And I was also able to share that earlier this year where we're pushing civic engagement opportunities for young people, saying that it all starts with after school. I shared about my story when I was an immigrant from Nigeria in 2014. I strongly felt that me being in the after school program helped me assimilate quicker to the culture of New York than whatever I was doing in the classroom. So I'm a strong advocate for after-school opportunities, strong advocate for things that happen on Saturdays and Saturday night lights for young people. So those programs like that benefit a lot of young people, to me, more than even what goes on in the classroom to some extent. You know, they work hand in hand, but I feel in after-school activities, you're more open. You make fun of each other. You're playing games and sports, and you're playing basketball. And when you trash talk each other in basketball, you're like, oh, you can't speak like that. And that makes you okay. Like, yeah, well, I can. And you want to show it, and then again, it's part of growing up as a young person. It's part of getting assimilated and adaptable to the culture and surroundings where you are, and also being able to know what's going on in society.
That's great. The other thing I'm kind of curious about, because all these struggles that we're seeing in these categories do actually impact mental health.
Yes.
So at this point, I think we've kind of looked at mental health and integration of mental health. Everyone's kind of doing that across the board. What is one of the issues that you feel is so tied to mental health but not being addressed? Like, I think you said economic instability, and that's tied to housing and all that.
But also, I mean, I think major that I would say tied to mental health is educational equity. Like providing that equity from schools to mental health, and that's where we see, like the data shows that there's the most impact to students in schools. So apart from out of schools, apart from, you know, students are coming to school with baggage from home and however they feel, and they're also interacting with friends in school that know how they feel, and they see school as an escape from whatever is going on in society and whatever is going on at home. And we see it at all levels, like right from middle school, even elementary school in some cases, to middle school, to high school. And I mean, we saw that display in colleges like last year. So at every level, there's a tie from education and from school resources to what's happening with mental health for young people. But Akwesi, I know you wanted to say something.
Just wanted to add on to the question regarding sexual
Education.
I think not only are we looking to work closer with City Council and the Mayor's Office of Gender Equity to make sure that it's a comprehensive slate provided to DOE schools, we also want to work with community-based organizations that provide this, and I think they come in the after-school piece because oftentimes it's community-based CBOs that are providing the programming for after-school. And then with regards to the mental health, I do think, just to reiterate the waste points around the Joy Center, we often overlook how much time students are spending in school, which is oftentimes and not more time than they are spending at home. And so creating a comprehensive, holistic kind of clubhouse model for school where you're not only getting educated, but you're getting a chance to hang out with friends as well as receive counseling services and have this expectation that not only am I going as like a chore because this is what I need to do to secure a good teacher because that's what the system says. I'm actually looking forward to going to school because it is a quote-unquote Joy Center.
Thank you for saying that, Kwesi.
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
Any other questions?
A wonderful presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
It's not just me, it's the whole, but thank you.
Yeah, I encourage everyone on the board to do the policy party.
We're trying to work on this.
Yeah.
We're working on
Jibube, would you guys be interested in also having a partnership? Recently, we've been in conversations with community government, and the plan, and maybe we can also get your assistance here, but trying to have all of the major community universities to have a pipeline program to speak with youth, to mentor, and to have like different speakers quarterly. You know, I would love to help out with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to it. I'm excited. I think we're always open to collaboration, especially in this work. And like I shared earlier, we're trying to do a youth mayoral forum with the NUT. So we are always collaborating with, we have a huge collaboration with the Youth Civic Hub that promotes resources for young people when it comes to jobs and internships, and also knowledge about civic engagement. So being able to collaborate with you and that as well. Something
I have to let you know you're the youth engagement officer. I got to go through you.
So good, man. I got you.
Okay.
I got you, brother. I saw that. Thank you.
So to take that another step further, what do you need from us, both collectively as a board, as individuals who are part of different organizations and communities? How do we best help you elevate and raise and do the work that you're doing? Like we're talking about the policy party, what we're talking about, developing joy centers across all the different spaces that you're looking at. How do we help you make that happen?
I appreciate that. I think that's great. I think the biggest thing I'll say is your support. The support is needed when we do events like the policy party, like showing up and supporting young people and hearing young voices. Having me on this board as a youth engagement officer is part of that support because I'm able to see some of our recommendations. I'm able to make sure they align with what we do with the NYC Youth Agenda. Like when we talk about SYP, it's slightly different when you talk about separating age groups and stuff like that, but it's still aligned with the overall goal of providing more employment opportunities to young people. So how that support is what that looks like in that lens, and that's like a small snippet to what it looks like on the broader lens as well. But having that support is the biggest thing I would say that we need right now from the youth board. And when we do major events, helping, if you have contact with city government that I know we all do, if we're trying to get one of the mayoral candidates to come to an event, you have direct ties with them, like being able to, I know them, I'll shoot them a text to see if they're able to show up. Something like that is a way that can help the work that we're doing. Thank you.
And then just to add on to that as well, because it's sort of in the works, we are partnering with the Public Advocate's Office to see how we can pass legislation for a potential NYC Youth Authority. So creating a youth body that will help oversee the implementation of these recommendations if they are found to be viable and suitable for the city. And so once that happens, I'm sure there's going to be a review process, some city hearings. We love folks add their voices to those hearings in addition to ourselves. So that'll show that there is real want for this in terms of one, making sure that there's policies that better serve you and making sure that you are in the room to oversee the implementation.
Any questions? Thank you.
All right, so very quickly, I think thank you. I think what we will be doing next with the Youth Agenda recommendations and their findings from 2024 is, I think what we'll do is make this accessible to everyone, and our next step will be identifying a couple of things that we would like to look at in subcommittee, and then moving forward with anyone who's interested in doing a little more work around what we identify for the subcommittees this year. So we will follow up with you on that. Also, to close out, we will also be following up with everyone on their commitment to this year. That will include perhaps workshops again, and providing space for events that DYCD will be doing, as well as hosting perhaps our last two board meetings this year. And it would be great if someone could provide a site for SYEP this year. So that said, yes.
You can have the next board
Oh, great, perfect. We will be following up with you on that.
That's awesome.
Yes, yay. And thank you so much for coming out today. Anything else someone would like to add? And Anna, you want to tell us what you would tell your little self, your 18-year-old self?
I'm sorry?
What was that? The prompt this year was introduce yourself and then tell us what you would say to your 18-year-old self.
Well, okay, my name is Ana Garcia Reyes. I'm the Dean of Community Relations at Hostos Community College. What would I tell my 18-year-old self? Keep moving. And make sure that as you move forward, you reach out to those behind you. So that all move at the same time and the community progress.
That's great. All right, thank you for closing us out with that. Yes, don't forget about who else is coming up with us, right? All right, so I would like to adjourn the meeting. Yes, about one.
Just a quick announcement, Women's History Month is getting ready to come to a close, but you know Women's History Month is every day. Mayor's Office of Talent and Workforce, we're going to be having a Women in Workforce event. The Deputy Mayor, Tiffany Raspberry, she leads our intergovernmental affairs efforts. She's going to be the keynote speaker. We're also going to have Laura Raj from NYC Service. You know, they do a lot of great programming with like AmeriCorps. They have so many youth-led programs. Laura James, she's on our New York City Workforce Development Board. She works at UPS. She's going to be on the panel. And we also have Sadia Sherman, who is the Chief Equity Officer. She's the Chief Equity Officer leading a lot of our racial equity work and just different things. She's great. She's going to be on the panel, as well as the director of our office, Abby Jo Siegel. So if you guys have some time next Wednesday, we're going to be in our office at 1 Liberty from 1 to 2:15. We're going to have some light snacks, calm snacks, I would say. You know, eat lunch before you come, but come on through. And it's going to be a good time. We want to celebrate women.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brother McKee, you're welcome to come too, man. All the fellas too. We need you.
Thanks, Grant. All right, so meeting adjourned. Do I have to have a motion?
No. You have the power. You have the power to
Well,
adjourn the meeting.
let's adjourn the meeting then. Yes, and there's breakfast that fun
Yeah,
minute.
breakfast is outside. The next meeting in this room is at 11. They may come to change over the room at some point, but you're welcome to, stay outside or in here.
We're still waiting.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.